What's up everyone, this is Alan Paris aka Corn Lucky, and today I'm going to be bringing you another tutorial on the character Kokoro from Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate. Starting out with Kokoro, just to go over a few of her basic pokes, her initial pokes here. She has a 10 frame high, a 12 frame mid, and a 13 frame low jab. Her 13 frame low jab leaves her on neutral hit, so you can stand up and apply her 12 frame mid and 10 frame jab at the initial speeds that they come out as. So that's what you can do with her there. Kokoro is a rushdown character, or she can also be played in a reserve fashion because of her strings and her safety with her strings. She can bulldog her way onto players because she is fairly safe, so you don't have to worry about big time punishment coming from players. The most punishment that you'll see from her, that you'll see her take, is from neutral throws. You have to be playing pretty wild and reckless for players to actually punish her big. Just to show you a few of her strings and her safety. Take the character training dummy back here to guard. -7 here, -3, -5, -5, neutral, and the list goes on actually. -6, and she has a few more strings that give her this safety. The most of those strings, as I was mentioning before, she's at -5, -6, -7. The things that are leaving her at -6 or 7, neutral throws, 5 frame throws, can be applied back, can be applied to her, but you can break those in Dead or Alive, so she's fairly safe. I will buffer in throw breaks from some of the things that will leave her at -7, just in case players know to neutral throw her, so you can get out of it. Outside of that, you know, she's not gonna see any big time punishment from any of her strings. Playing Kokoro in a reserve fashion, you can keep her at a mid range because and pretty much when you do this, your players are beating themselves when they're whiffing things in a neutral game, or not really paying attention to what they are doing when they're trying to come in on her. So playing her in a reserve fashion, that's what you're pretty much going to be doing, is allowing players to pretty much beat themselves by not being too smart on what they're doing. And the attacks that she has from this range is her 66 punch, her 6 punch plus kick, her 214p, her 263p, and a really good move that she has is her 46 punch. With that one, as you notice, she steps in fairly quick with it, even though it's 17 frames. And with the combination of her stepping in with the move and players whiffing in the neutral game, they're gonna get hit on counter hit, and then they're going to be launched for it. Actually, you can set the dummy on counter hit now. Counter. One more thing, stagger, escape, fastest. So with those attacks, her 46 punch, sorry, it won't come out, there it is. It launched on counter hit there. Her 263p causes a bound state. She can follow up with a juggle from that. Her 214p causes a knockback. Her 66p causes a crumple stun, putting her at +18, where she can immediately go into whatever it is that she wants to do as far as her pressure with any of her strings. And she has her 6 punch plus kick. On neutral hit, it's not all that great, but on counter hit, which is how you would want to land this, it puts her at +15, and she can start with whatever it is that she wants coming from that. Even with the opponent slow escaping immediately, but with her strings, she can easily go into whatever that she wants. I forgot to take the training dummy off blocking as the second recovery there, so he kind of blocked all of that. Playing against a human opponent, they can do that, slow escape and immediately block, but even still with this stuff, like, they'd have to be prepared to be hit by that, and then immediately slow escape and then react to you blocking to whatever mix-up. So although the little mix-up that I just did there was blocked with the training dummy, if they go to block low, you can apply her 6P, and there she's at plus 17 even with him slow escaping at fastest, and she can still follow up with whatever she wants. And this is just pretty much playing Kokoro in a reserved fashion. When you're at a long range with Kokoro, she's going to have her issues when she's at the back of the screen because she doesn't have anything outside of the basic movement in the game to actually get back inside of the ranges of what you want her, which would be either mid to close range. I do not advise, or as a beginner, I'm pretty sure you're doing this, but you need to make a conscious effort not to whiff anything in the neutral game to move her in coming from a long range, because it's not all that smart whiffing things, especially if you're playing against a zoning character. This is the type of stuff that they're going to be looking for you to do so they can counterblow you, because she doesn't have really anything at all to move her in safely. So Ayane and Ian would have a field day against Kokoro when she's doing, you know, shenanigans from a long range across the screen to actually get closer to your opponent. Even for characters that are not fairly strong at zoning, smarter players will see you whiffing, and it's just a matter of time before you get close enough, and they're gonna capitalize on you whiffing attacks from one end of the screen to the other just to cover ground. So playing with Kokoro, you'd want to actually, you know, inch and scoot your way in to the desired range and trying to bait out whatever it is that they're doing, and then applying one of her mid-range tools to score the counter hit that you want, so that you can actually start her pressure and not necessarily attacking from a long range. Next, I'll give you a little insight as far as Kokoro's mix-up game. Whether or not Kokoro scores a counter strike, her mix-up game is still highly potent in the neutral game, and that's because she has throws that are embedded inside of her attacking strings. So I'll take the training dummy here to guard again, and things like punch punch throw, it puts her at plus 11, and she has attack follow-ups coming from this: a mid punch, a high punch, and a low punch. The great thing about this is that most characters, you can see a pause and then a break when they go punch punch throw, but with Kokoro, since they're embedded in her strings, it's all a fluid motion as far as her still throwing out attacks, and she can also follow up with attacks after it. So the moment that you put punch punch on someone's block, they have to make an immediate decision on whether or not they're going to be thrown, or do I keep blocking to stop the mid that's going to hit me. So players just can't outright block all of your strings if you have a fine mix-up between the strings that she does have with throws that are inside of them. Now, once Kokoro does land a counter strike, it's pretty much off to the races there, because she's extremely mix-up heavy in the stun game. So players are gonna have a hard time dealing with the things she can do. Her stun launch game is fairly weak, so you do have to play in the stun game. To actually rack up any real damage with her. Just to give you some of her stun launch damage. That missed. That's stand specific. So here, yeah, 68 points of damage. That's not all that great. So playing in the stun game, 98 points of damage there. I could have got a little bit more out of that if I went another route with one of her strings, but that just goes to show you, just from a counter strike and her playing in the stun game, as far as where her damage can go. Her damage can go actually a lot higher playing in the stun game the way I just did, and then launching your opponent. If your opponent does start trying to hold the things that you can do, her throws are really good, because either they're gonna do a fair amount of damage, or they're going to allow her to keep up her pressure. So I'm gonna take the training dummy and put it on high counter, because that's what you're going to get when players mishold. With this, that's the same throw that's a part of her strings that she can attack from. This is a 9-frame throw. This is her 2-6-3 throw, and it puts her at plus 11. Players have to deal with that. Her 12-frame throw does 97 points of damage, and it also plays off of the environment, because she's moving around and then pushing them away from her. Something else that's also great about her chain throw is that most chain throws in the game are breakable, while hers is the only way they can get out of it is if you mess it up. So you practice it, so your timing is on point, and never miss it, and you're going to be dealing 97 points of damage every time someone decides to mishold. As far as Kokoro goes and her defense, when rushdown characters are applied to her block, she can't deal with it all that well. She does have a few options that she can get them off of her with, jabbing them, her forward punch. She has some crush moves that she can get up under them with, but if they're applying their rushdown game properly, how they're supposed to, she's gonna have a fairly hard time actually getting them off of her. So she can deal and dish out the rushdown extremely well, but her taking it, she can't deal with it as well as she can dish it out. So you have to be aware of that, especially if a character like Christy gets on your guard. You have to be extremely patient against a character like that and find out when and where to actually counter poke her. And for the most part, you'd want to keep a character like Christy up off of you by not letting her get in on you. And that's going to be fairly hard, especially if you're playing against a person that knows to keep or knows how to apply Christy's pressure extremely well. Again, she's not completely out of luck against them. If you're doing everything right, you can keep Christy at bay and try to stop her from applying the pressure game. That fight there will be fairly difficult for you if you haven't noticed that already as a beginner, or as you're learning with Kokoro, is dealing with other rushdown characters, and characters that are evasive like Helena or Brad Wong will give Kokoro the flux too, just because their lower stance allows them to get out of a lot of the things that she does. And playing against them, again, it deals with a lot of patience and knowing when and where to strike them to at least hold up how often that they go into their evasive stances. And that's pretty much Kokoro and her defense, and that wraps it up for Kokoro. Another little side note is that Kokoro is a beginner friendly. She's a beginner friendly character. You can easily pick her up and make things work. You don't have to worry about being unsafe often. So you kind of get away from one of the major factors in the game as far as throw punishment. So as a beginner, you can lean on the buttons, and as you grow into an intermediate to advanced player, your Kokoro will become a very strong or solid character. And some of her pros and cons. Pros: she's safe. She has a great mix-up game, and that wraps it up for Kokoro. Some of her pros and cons. Pros: she's safe. She has a great mix-up game as far as being in a neutral game or counter-striking players. As far as her throws and string goes, as far as what I was telling you before, to prevent players from sidestepping you. So whether you stun someone or not, she has a great mix-up game, and most of all, she's easy to pick up. Some of the cons are is that although she does have her in-string throws, she is linear, and if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you'll keep her in a linear motion, and against a player that knows she's linear, you're going to be sidestepped left and right all day long. So you have to make a conscious effort as far as mixing in her in-string throws and not making her seem so linear. And lastly, she lacks, I'm not going to say she lacks defensive options. She has them, but dealing with evasive characters for the most part, and then rush down characters, she's going to have her work cut out for her. And that's Kokoro for this evening.